Number 4. We know no service to the state done by these men, but that they set up with the sword all the blasphemous and heretical sects and religions that Th. Munzer or John of Leyden fancied contrary to the oath of God, for they all professed they were for the covenant. Many of them did swear it. With what conscience to perform, let Cromwell and others speak. God will not be mocked, which is such disservice to the state of England as cannot but draw down from heaven the vengeance of the Lord and the vengeance of his temple upon the land. Or was it fair when the congregational men did hide their conclusion of liberty of conscience, would keep that intended idol in the bottom of their heart, and join in covenant with Presbyterians, and swear against multiformity of religions and words, known to be contrary to the sense of those who drew up the covenant, contrary to sense and reason, and the same words of the covenant, and now obtrude on us multiformity for uniformity? Number 5. The author insinuates as much, as not to give them liberty of conscience as a reward of their valorous fighting is a disservice to the state, but ingenuous workmen speak of their wages before they engage in the work, but to keep up any word of liberty of conscience until the work be ended. And it came to disbanding, is no far bargaining, but rather in plain English, either sell us law, liberties, religion, and give them to us besides our areas, or we must be a perpetual standing army to govern England, and manage religion with the sword, and to set up all religions, and to destroy the covenant and the Protestant faith, and live upon the sweat of other men's brows. The covenant, with a fair interpretation, may be urged against Presbyterians, and for the congregational way, as well as otherwise. The covenant binds no man nor number of men, or to state or church, for their parts respectively, to any pattern or degree of reformation, conformity or uniformity with other churches, but what shall satisfactorily to them, and each of their consciences, appear to be according to the word of God. And such a reformation do the congregational men desire, pray, preach, endeavor for and after, in the pursuance of the covenant, as if there had been no such outward covenant obliging them. Would ye have men driven in droves to the sacrament still, and the precious and the vile mixed, and idle shepherds suffered, and bishop courts and consistories continued? Had these been beaten down, had we not under God, as a forlorn hope, first given them battle? How can ye say we hinder reformation, when we are for a further and purer reformation, yourselves being judges? You would sit down on this side Jordan, we would advance. Sit you quiet, if you will not help us, as we helped you. Answer. When you of the congregational way, that is, of the church way, for none are churches but you, we are excommunicated in all else but yourselves, did swear to endeavour the preservation of the reformed religion in the Church of Scotland in doctrine, worship, discipline, and government, which, to your consciences, and all the reformed churches, is Presbyterian, can the covenant be turned against Presbyterians as well as against you? Number 2. You write and preach that the government Presbyterian is popish, anti-Christian, more tyrannical than that of Babel, of Egypt. So all your way, and particularly Mr. Burton, in his conformity is deformity, and your independence in the assembly. Yet you did swear to endeavour its preservation, and all the independents in both houses spake against it, as tyrannical, and have voted to clog it with Erastianism. I would believe Erastus, if he had sworn to endeavour the preservation of it, better than your oath. I think pagans would not swear to endeavour the preservation of any religious way, which with tongue, pen, laws, and sword they endeavour to undo and extirpate. See if distinctions will defend it against the common enemy, and whether these words, according to the word of God expounded by you, will save you from the quarrel and wrath of God for a broken covenant. Pass over the isles, and go to Turkey, to America, and see if such a thing as this hath been. Secondly, the covenant binds no man, saith he, to any degree of reformation, but what shall satisfactorily appear to each man's conscience to be according to the word of God. First, then the reformed religion in Scotland, in doctrine, worship, and government, according to the word of God, appeared once satisfactorily to your conscience to be according to the word of God, for you took the covenant. Yet ye say it is anti-Christian. It drives men in droves to the sacrament. It is the bishop's courts and consistories continued. But ye did swear to endeavour the preservation of their reformed religion according to the word of God, the only rule. But if it was sworn to as the reformed religion, was it not according to the word of God? Is it reformed, and not according to the word of God? Or was these words according to the word of God? Condition, insinuating what is in the doctrine and discipline of the reformed religion of that church. Not according to the word of God. To that you did not swear. But so, if the Turk should come and wage war against papists for their religion, and a heathen people that maintains there be more gods than one, and that the Old Testament is not the word of God, should raise arms against the Jews, you might as well swear you should defend the doctrine of the Church of Rome, and the religion of the Jews against the Turk, and those heathen people according to the word of God. For sure these fundamentals that Jews and papists hold in doctrine are according to the word of God, and so you did swear no otherwise to defend the reformed religion of the Church of Scotland than that of the Church of England. Therefore these troubles arose, for that ye swore to defend in so far as it agrees with the word of God. Yea, so ye did swear to defend any religion of any nation you never heard of according to the word of God, if, you say, but we knew the reformed religion of the Church of Scotland, therefore you might swear to it. But ye know not all the religions of any nation you never heard of. But if so, then you knew the reformed religion of Scotland to be according to the word of God, then it appeared satisfactorily to your conscience so to be. But did their fundamentals against familists, anti-scripturists, Socinians, Arians, so appear to your conscience to be according to the word of God, and their anti-Christian and tyrannical presbyteries, that are but, as you say, episcopal courts and consistories, appear to be so, and that satisfactorily to your consciences? If so, why judge ye familists, Socinians, such as deny the Trinity, and such as make all the saints to be Christ, and godded with the indwelling fullness of God, to be gods manifested in the flesh, to be saints, brethren, the godly party to be indulged? Then you must question the fundamentals of the doctrine of Scotland, and they did not satisfactorily appear to your conscience to be according to the word of God. And why did you simply without any limitation swear to endeavour the preservation of the reformed religion? You should have said, truly reformed religion of the Church of Scotland. And why did you swear simply to the doctrine, worship, discipline, and government of the Church, according to the word of God, when you knew then, as now, their government was anti-Christian, and not according to the word of God, and their doctrine even in fundamentals not so sure, but Socinians, Arians, and the saints your brethren, the familists, may hold the contrary, and be tolerated as saints, and their doctrine, though opposite in fundamentals to ours, may be as satisfactory truths to your conscience as ours of Scotland. Confess and glorify God. You swear the covenant in a Jesuitical, reserved sense, kept up in your mind, as you insinuate in pages 66 and 67, and such as words cannot bear. Number 3. There is here a new trick put on the covenant. It binds to no truth but what shall appear satisfactorily to the conscience of each swearer to be according to the word of God. If a merchant promise and swear to a simple man to give him such wares for £100, he gives him but £100 Scotch, whereas the wares are to the man as dear as £100 sterling. Is the merchant absolved of his oath and promise if he pay him but £100 Scotch, and say, it appears satisfactorily to my antinomian conscience, the wares are of no more value than £100 Scotch, and my oath and promise obligeth me to no more than satisfactorily appeareth to my conscience, the only rule of my obligation, to be according to equity and justice. And so you are fully paid with £100 Scotch. So this author absolves us from all oaths and covenants, though we swear not to kill a captive taken in war, and swear to adhere to the fundamentals, that there is one God, Christ is the one only mediator, God and man, consubstantial with the Father. Yet if after you have talked with Saltmarsh, or put your faith in the power of the sophisms of a cunning Jesuit, it makes it satisfactorily appear to your conscience that it is according to the word of God, that the captive be killed, he is a murderer, and there be as many mediators as there be saints in heaven, and as many Christs, godded with the fullness of the Godhead, as there be saints of the family of love. And so your oath to your fundamentals obligeth you not, and you are guilty of no perjury, though first you swear to the necessary truths of God. and now ye turn apostate from both faith and oath. Libertines infuse such a magic in your erroneous conscience, that it is your only rule, and displaceth the law of nature from all obligation, or the word of God, the only rule of faith and manners. You are tried no longer by the oath of God, than your weathercock conscience, with this new moon, hath caught a new light. You are as if there had been no such outward covenant obliging you. Take it upon the word of this Gamaliel. Dormi secure in utramque oram. But though it be true, nothing doth oblige, but it must appear to be according to the word of God, that it may oblige in the right and due manner and way. Yet it is most false that it obligeth as it shall appear, or quateness, because it doth appear to the conscience to be the word of God, for quateness ad omni vale consequentia. Then everything obligeth, as it appears to be the word of God, to the conscience, most erroneous. Then are some obliged to murder the innocent apostles, for it appears satisfactorily to their conscience to be the word of God and service to God, so to do, John 16, verse 1. And some are obliged to sacrifice their sons to God, though they did vow and covenant the contrary in baptism, for it appears satisfactorily to their conscience. It is according to the example of Abraham to offer their sons to God, except God from heaven forbid them, as he did Abram. Number 5. To libertines no covenants or oaths of the most lawful things lays on any more obligation to performance than if these oaths had never been made, if the erroneous conscience gainsay. Number 6. You did know the discipline of the Church of Scotland debars not all from the sacrament, except known unregenerate persons. You knew their consistories to be hateful to the common enemies. Why then did you swear to defend them against the common enemy, since both to your conscience and the common enemy they are contrary to the word of God? Number 7. You durst not give the first battle to bishops. Scotland gave it to them, when your grandees were as low as shrubs, as feared as harts. Number 8. You hinder reformation. Your independents wrought with all their power. There should be no assembly, and that no old nonconformists, such as sound and learned Mr. Ruthbend, gracious and zealous Mr. Ashe, and others, to be members thereof, and would rather had prelatic conformists in the assembly than they. You join with all the sectaries who are against covenant, government, confession of faith, and directory of worship, retarded the proceedings of the assembly. We heard often in Scotland, you wished prelacy were gone, if you knew what to put in its place. As if no government known to you could fit England, but prelacy, and that of the Reformed churches, were not so good. 9th. You would go further on than we, and be over Jordan, but we had rather sit down on this side of Jordan, as go over with you. For we was not well over, when ye set up at the king's houses idolatrous, bowing to altars, and the abjured mass book, and familists, Socinians, Antinomians, Seekers, Arians, preaching soldiers, who teach as many saints, as many Christs and gods manifested in the flesh. And when these perverters of the right ways of God were silenced by a godly preacher at London, they prayed woe with learning. It opposeth all the ways of God, and is that a reformation on the other side of Jordan, which sends out apostles to preach that are as blind as moles in the principles of the single catechism, who know not whether there be one God and one mediator Christ, or millions of gods and Christs, yet these are the only anointed ones. It were good that such a reformation were over Jordan, and millions of miles beyond America.